Well, um, when I tell people that what I'm involved with is video music, they kind of look at you puzzled and ask if I do music videos. And the answer to that is that no, that's not really what I do, and it is not linked. The image is not linked to the music as a service to the music, meaning that both the image and the sound and the music are composed together, are meant to go together and compose the actual work. The practice for me issues from the practice of electroacoustic music, more specifically musique concrète, in the sense that the sounds, the process of the work in musique concrète involves a number of steps. The first one of which is the capture of the sound, the recording of the sound, where you go out with a microphone and pick sounds and choose and record the sounds. And then after that, the second step is to catalog, is to differentiate, and is to organize the material. And thirdly, you go into the studio and you work with the material, you work with the sound, with computers, with any kind of audio equipment, in order to make the sound say something that it doesn't say initially. So if you have the sound of a door that's closing, for instance, well, if you transpose it down, and if you reverse it, play it backwards, and so on, you get a completely different experience. And you also, and this is what's most important, you lose the identification of the sound with its source. So the anecdote of the sound is removed, in the sense that what you hear is a sound, but it's not that sound of a door. From there on, the final step is to compose with the material that you have modified, and obeying the inner logic of the sound, be able to compose a work that issues from the material and leads to a complete aesthetic experience of the work. Now, video music to me does exactly the same thing, and this in the sense that the workflow is exactly the same. I go out with a camera, I will, to go back to the example of a door that closes, I will shoot a door that closes, and then and collect any number of images in that way. I then will catalog, and then in the studio I will transform this material so that I remove the link between what you see and what it comes from. So in a sense, you de-iconify the image by procedures, exactly the same types of procedures, even by reversing, by changing the colors, and so on and so forth, whereby what you're left with is form, color, and movement. Form, color, and movement means that essentially, when you concentrate on these attributes of the image, means that you are keeping the formal aspects of the image as the carrier of meaning. So you're just essentially abstracting the source of the image, and then you carry on from there, and exactly like in musique concrète, you follow the logic of your material to organize the discourse into a piece. So to me, video music is a transposition of musique concrète into imagery, and it's work that's based on abstraction mostly, and it concerns itself formally with movement, with color, and form, essentially. So now it's important to realize that while there's a commonality of process, there isn't necessarily an equivalent of the two. In other words, I don't have to make musique concrète in order to make video music. I mean, the music that I make is not actually musique concrète, but the image borrows from musique concrète. But from then on, after that, the music that you use in order to do that doesn't have to be composed that way, but it has to respect the criteria of the form, which is color, movement, and form. Therefore, articulating a discourse into a piece, a new piece, that is neither cinema, because it's not cinema. It's not music video, because it does not accompany a piece of music, or it doesn't attempt to illustrate a piece of music. But it's one and the same thing, and where the audience is invited to establish what Michel Chion calls the audio-visual contract, whereby even if you know that the sound does not issue from the image that you see, the audience is convinced through the commonality of the form that it is in fact not produced, but they belong together. And this is, it's a very fertile ground for perceptual studies, because it means that out of icon and sense in sound and image, there's something else that exists that allows you to tie the two together. And that's what makes the sense comes from the movement, it comes from the color, it comes from the direction, it comes from what finally is musical discourse. So that's why music is the defining, is really the defining argument of video music, as opposed to the other way around. Because we're dealing with abstraction, and music is abstract. Music doesn't say anything. It has sense, but it doesn't say anything. It's the same thing for video music, and that's why I try to. I mean, also there are other issues of video music is that music videos aren't, and basically it has to do with long form. I think that ideas such as those get developed over longer periods of time. And the idea of immersion also is there to the extent that if you experience video music, you are solicited, both senses. The eye and the ear are solicited at the same time, and therefore you are immersed in the experience. Whereby if you listen to music alone, especially on fixed support when there's no musicians, then your mind wanders and you're not really focused on the experience. So, and as opposed to cinema, that's why the stuff is not cinema. If you go to the cinema, it's not really the image that makes the experience. It's not the sound that makes the experience, and it's not the script that makes the experience. What makes the experience is the suspension of disbelief, that you go into a movie and you're willing. You sign the contract and you say, I'm willing to believe what's going on, even if you know it's a movie. That's the experience of cinema. And it has to exist, the same contract has to exist with video music, but it's in the abstract. So therefore, it kind of sits at a critical juncture of between the visual arts and music, but remains music in its unfolding in time. So that's what I try to do. It's kind of complicated because the critical discourse does not exist yet to address the various issues that come forth because of that. So, yeah.